National sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical, our friend Rob the Hockey Guy on Twitter. Rob Williams, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well. Fantastic. We'll start with the Surrey Mitsubishi poll question, Rob. Who is most to blame for this Canucks season? Are you going management, coaches, players, or just one player?
Open to interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Classic Sakaris and Price.
Hey, don't typecast us. Don't put us in a box.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Mm-hmm. I think if you, for me, I would like to go off the board. I'll give you an answer from that selection. But the hockey gods, this is a cursed season. Like the injuries, you know how teams say, you don't want to use injuries as an excuse, and injuries happen to all teams. How many teams had injuries like the Vancouver Canucks this season? Everyone's gone down at some point. If Elias Pettersson, if the Pettersson-Miller feud doesn't happen, do they make the playoffs? Probably. But at the same time, like if Thatcher Demko's healthier this season, do they make the playoffs? I think they probably do. If Quinn Hughes doesn't get hurt, do they make the playoffs? If Philip Hronek doesn't get hurt, do they make the playoffs? Like there's a lot of those types of things that happen to so many guys. Like seemingly every important player on the team was injured at one point or another. With that said, from the options on your poll question, it's player. I'm going to say players because I blame Pettersson and Miller for that whole fiasco. Just seemed so childish that they couldn't coexist and work together. Don't know enough of the details about exactly what happened, but it definitely seems like there's blame to go around to both guys. So that would be what I would say.
Missing 10 to 15 games this year was the starting goaltender, the number one defenseman, the number two defenseman, the number one centerman, and then you can go down the list of the role players as well. But literally, that's how you would draw up what you need to be a good team. You need a couple good defensemen, a starting goalie, and a number one centerman. And all of those players did miss 10 to more games.
Rob asked about how many teams. There's a good site, nhlinjuryviz.blogspot.com. It breaks down not just your traditional injuries, man, games lost, and things like that, but it weights it versus WAR.
Right.
So wins above replacement. And the chart churns out that the Toronto Maple Leafs, Colorado Avalanche, and Minnesota Wild were the most affected by injuries because, of course, man games lost doesn't account for a sixth defenseman versus a number one center. So those three teams were the most hampered by injuries to key players. The Canucks are right there with the Flames and Islanders amongst the next group of teams.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So amongst the leaders, if not the leaders.
I have to scrutinize the methodology once we've done this.
Please do. That's what you do best, Rob Williams. And I want to get to this altogether poster in a second here, Rob. Well, I mean, this is again, this is up your alley in terms of what you guys look for. But before we get there, we were talking about it in the opening block. Missed the playoffs 8 of the last 10 years. So you can really go back to like 3 one-offs since the glory days, right, of the Sedins. The 2015 team, Willie Desjardins' first year, the expanded postseason bubble that got them in 2020, and then last year. So, the norm is this is a team that tries to make the playoffs every year, playoffs above all else, and still misses a large percentage of the time.
Yeah, I mean, remember last year I was telling you I don't know how many sports writers or people that cover the NHL have waited longer to cover a playoff game in person than myself, because I started in my first time in the press box was in 2015 after they'd made the playoffs. So that 2015-16 season. And it took all the way until 2024 before I saw a playoff game at Rogers Arena. It's been a rough decade. I mean, I think there's at least we're out of the Benning era, and I think that was a darker time than right now. As I said last week, I don't think it's as bad as it feels. That doesn't mean I think they're on a great path here to contending for a Stanley Cup, but I do think that when you look at this group, if they just have a little bit more luck in a few areas, if they just have Pettersson return to the guy I think that he can be, if they just have Demko be the goalie that we think he can be, and not have his career be completely derailed, things are not going to look nearly as bleak next season. And I do have confidence in this management group, at least, certainly more than the Benning regime, to fill out spots on the roster. And if you have a good summer, things can change in a hurry.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I have more confidence in them than the Benning group, but of course, very low bar there. So you're blaming mostly Miller and Pettersson for the feud. Okay, fair enough. What was management's biggest misstep? The Miller trade, the summer free agency and opening the season with that core, the trade deadline, the failure to manage up, if you will, not extending Rick Todd. I mean, you tell me, what do you think the biggest misstep was for management this season?
Yeah, I think it was the defense. They came into the season with a defense that was not nearly adequate enough. I think we saw it right off the hop with, I know Artur Shilov's shoulders some blame on in the opener to Calgary when they blew that 3-goal lead. But it was the defense. It wasn't good enough to start the year. Then they had to remedy it in the season, and it took trading JT Miller to do that. And I think it's especially that was especially a misstep because they made a lot of unnecessary moves. And to kind of like bolster the wing, like they brought in, remember bringing in Danton Heinen, like what was that about? Spending all that money on Vinny Desharnais, I think was a poor move. Even guys like Ilya Mikheyev, who's having a decent year in Chicago. I mean, I don't think he would have been like a world beater in Vancouver, but you had to give up a second-round pick to get rid of him. You had to retain on his salary, and you spent on Heinen instead. Would Mikheyev have been? I think Mikheyev was a better player than Heinen, and I think that that's something that this management group does need to shoulder a bit of blame on. Is moving off guys after 1 year. We've praised them for that before, like, hey, you made a mistake and get off them right away.
But you want to make it a rule.
They have sometimes just done that where it's like, okay, they're just. When you're wrong on it, then you are trading at rock bottom prices on guys, and and Mikheyev I think is a classic example. So for me, that was the misstep. I think losing a guy like Ian Cole was a poor move. Just having like stabilizing guys at the beginning you can think back, like, does Miller and Pettersson, does that go so far off the rails if they have a better start to the season? There's a lot of what ifs. With that said, they had two of the best free agent signings in the league with Langton and Sherwood. So it wasn't a complete disaster of an offseason, but I do think you have to go back to that. They started the year with a defense that was just not up to par.
Yeah, and you're quite right. When you trade it low, Ebb, you compound the mistake. Ilya Mikheyev, 20 goals this year, 34 points for the Chicago Blackhawks. They traded him, Sam Lafferty, and a second-round pick to Chicago for a fourth-round pick.
I'd have Ilya Mikheyev back on my team. That contract was just too much for that player in particular. But I think I know the answer based on what you just said, but let's spell it out. I mean, some are still saying, or Drant's talking about this as well, strip it down. Like it's time to really start from scratch here and make massive changes to this team. I think it sounds like, Rob, you're saying, no, address the edges, maybe one key signing, something like that. You want to add to this group more than take away. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, strip it down, tear it down, rebuild around everybody, get rid of
probably
everybody.
Pettersson gone.
I loved Thomas, and I appreciate the sentiment, and there's part of it that I agree with, but it's just not reality with this owner. He is not going to allow that. The last guy who suggested that is out.
I don't think it's tear it down for the purposes of a get bad rebuild. I think it's trade Pettersson.
Plus, you've got to
get rid of
Hughes, especially after what Hughes has said to Ian McIntyre here.
But you can change everything. Matt Duchene kind of trades. You you do that, or do you hold on to the player and
he's a free agent? But yes,
I mean Matt Duchene out of Colorado.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I wouldn't do a tear it down rebuild with this group. I think they've got enough pieces. I do think they need to consider like a 2-year plan. It doesn't always have to be like a 1-year plan. Like we're gonna do it next year. Mm-hmm. I do have time for like, okay, we're gonna make a couple moves. We might not be a better team next season, but we're eyeing the year after that to really push forward. So that would require if you're trading Pettersson, you're not trading him for picks and prospects and immediately flipping those picks and prospects for guys that can help you right now. You'd be trading for guys that you're thinking, okay, this guy is on the cusp of being really great, and we're going to be a good team with that. And or maybe free agency is not going to drop our way this year, but the following year it can. I could see some merits to that, but like just a flat like trade all these guys and get them out the door, I'm not in favor of that. To me, the best path forward with Pettersson, as frustrating as it has been, and it has been frustrating, and you want to do something, I think, in this case, I think that's a natural reaction given what we've watched from Pettersson for more than a calendar year now. But I think the best solution is the most boring solution, and that is just to hold on to him and hope he figures it out. It's a bit of I know hope is not a plan, but I think in this case, hope has to be part of the plan with Elias Pettersson. If you trade Pettersson, it might take you another decade to find another number one center that can be as good as we know he can be.
How much did this season undercut the fans' belief in this team? Because last year restored a lot of luster, especially winning the playoff round. And people jumped into this season with both feet. We're ready. Canucks are back. How much did this set the franchise back in terms of ticket sales and in terms of attention spans? Like, people are a little bit, Matt and I have noticed, people are a little bit slow anyhow on the relative scale to bite into the season. It's not until December till people really get engaged. The widespread fan base. Like, are they risking pushing that farther and farther, especially if they get off to a mediocre start? Like, how far did they set themselves back by being this bad this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think fans desperately wanted to fall in love with that team, and I think they have a soft spot in their hearts for these players that they've watched grow up, players that the Canucks have drafted and developed: Pettersson, Hughes, Boeser, Demko, and they finally put it together last year, and people absolutely fell in love with him again. We're so starved for a winner in this city. And you're right, it all came together, and what goodwill, and people were so excited about this season and seeing what they could do. And yeah, I think a ton of that goodwill is gone. Fans are absolutely, infatuated with Quinn Hughes. Mm-hmm. What a season he's had, and what heart he's shown. And yeah, I just think it's a situation where people just want to see a winner, and however they can do that, the fans will be back in droves the minute they start winning and start showing some signs of life again. But when they continually disappoint like this, yeah, you're going to lose. Especially the hardcores are going nowhere. They're just going to, just be completely frustrated and angry with the team, and they'll be along for the ride. But it's the casual fans that, if you're running a business of an NHL hockey team, that you've got to be concerned about, because they tune out, like you say. Like they're going to tune out when the team is bad.
Well, speaking of tuning in or tuning out, or at least buying in, the season ticket renewal poster came out, and I do call it renewal because I'm not sure how many new subscribers they're getting off this season with that pathetic home record. The slogan is all together, and the poster, and those of you on YouTube, Quinn Hughes with Elias Pettersson and Brock Boeser, unrestricted free agent, Rob. Are they telling us something about their off-season plans featuring Boeser and Elias in this poster, or is it just the marketing and season ticket department not necessarily in perfect harmony with the hockey operations department?
Yeah, I guess they didn't. The marketing department didn't call Patrick Galvin on this one. I guess. Yeah, I don't know what I chalk that up to the marketing department throwing. Who are the guys that I don't know, the guys that have been here a long time that are
big names.
Part of
the guys people love, especially Boeser and Hughes and.
Yeah,
to a lesser extent,
I chalk it up to that. I mean, I suppose you could have put Thatcher Demko on there. Maybe it would have ruined the symmetry of the photo, having a goalie in there. I don't know. Maybe you should have just stuck with Quinn Hughes, and then it would have just been it would have just worked. How ironic is it that the slogan this year, and we talk a lot about slogans, I know together. How ironic is it that the slogan this year was, what is it? All in, all together, all in. And of course that it comes in the Miller Petey fiasco season.
They were trying to manifest it. They were trying to manifest it. And
at the time it was a fine enough slogan. Kind of reminds me of Unfinished Business though, like in retrospect. Remember Unfinished Business, and they're like, the Boudreau team that didn't just, they almost made that great run for the playoffs. We got unfinished business, and then they come out the next season and just go on an epic losing streak to start the year and get booed off the ice in their home opener. So
the good segue here, because putting a player on a poster that doesn't end up showing up happened with another team, of course. And there was talks of class action lawsuits because of it.
As we transition to Roberto, the football guy.
Yes. I don't think there's a class action lawsuit if Boeser doesn't suit up in the opener, but we digress. Pedro Vite, the poster boy, the original one here, as we get set for the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions League. They didn't dare put any Miami players as they promoted the Whitecaps versus Miami. But it's what everybody's thinking. Do I invest? And the question there, too, is, how much do I invest in this match, knowing Messi may or may not play? It's going to be fabulous theater in and of itself, never mind the match.
I find myself wondering, would Lionel Messi show up to a beautiful outdoor grass pitch in East Vancouver overlooking the North Shore Mountains at the P&E? I think he might.
I think he probably does.
He might.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another day. But people are going to be people were skeptical the last time, but people are going to be very skeptical this time. Like, will Messi show up? Will he snub Vancouver twice? In less than 12 months, that would be unbelievable. It would be such a bad look.
In a cup semi. Come on.
If you have any respect for this tournament, you have to at least put him on the plane to Vancouver. Like, even if he doesn't play, or even if you just keep him on the bench and you play him if you need a goal in the last 10, 20 minutes. Even if he could just wave to the crowd, that would be more than what they did the last time. People were really upset. I remember last year we have somebody on our staff from our social media team is a diehard soccer fan, and he lives in Toronto, and he bought a ticket to Vancouver to see Messi play.
Yeah,
like just to see Messi play. Like, he was just going to do that, and I think that he wasn't the only one. I'm sure there was a lot of people that made plans and
from all over the world, Rob.
Yeah.
They came from all over the world, and of course the irony being is that if he shows up here, this is for a CONCACAF Champions Cup, of which there is nowhere close to the commercial investment or activity vis-a-vis Lionel Messi and MLS, right? Like MLS amended all its rules, put all this money, Apple bought and started on the basis of Lionel Messi. Like there was a commercial interest for MLS and Apple to have Messi come here and play in Vancouver, and yet still it didn't happen. There is very little comparative commercial interest in CONCACAF, and yet I agree with everyone. I think he's more likely to play here than he is. Than he ever was.
I will say this: like, if Miami shows up with with keeping all their stars home as they did last time, and last year they came in and still won the match. Like this year's Vancouver, these are not the last year's Vancouver Whitecaps. Like they'll embarrass them. Like the Whitecaps are a absolute juggernaut this year. I hope the city of Vancouver gets behind this team, because this has been an unreal start to the year, and what an opportunity for the Whitecaps right now. The Canucks missing the playoffs, the floor is theirs now to, I think, recapture the imagination of the fan base and bring people back in and getting behind. If you want to see a winner, like they're showing all the signs so far.
And in a window where the Canucks are either struggling or, in this case, not playing. And this has been before the Caps many, many times before. Yeah. And so will this time be the Carpe Diem spot?
But, if nobody shows up, last time, it almost felt like the Whitecaps team sagged. Like even the players felt like the game had lost its energy because of who wasn't there. And it was just a regular season game in an out-of-conference game, which means even less than playing a game like the Portland Timbers. So everything was decreased. Nothing gets decreased here. This is a semifinal. And if they want to downgrade their team to the Whitecaps' benefit, there's a real benefit to the Whitecaps winning that match that wasn't there for a measly regular season match. So
winning
I think
the tie, and of course going on to play in the
for
Cup
a trophy,
final. Yeah, which would be cool. Rob, awesome stuff. Thank you for this. Appreciate you morphing into Roberto the football guy. Give our best to Chelsea in the background. All right, and we'll catch up next Thursday.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys.